When we talk about flow metrics, there are 4 key flow metrics. The first one we're going to talk about here is WIP. When we talk about work in progress, I think a common misconception is to go, oh, we have WIP limits, and to add up those WIP limits across the top of your board or the top of your columns, whatever your WIP limits might look like. But when we talk about WIP from the perspective of flow metrics, we're talking about actual work in progress. So the actual number of work items that have been started but are not yet finished at any given time. And we say the actual number of work items because you may see that this varies slightly from day to day. So if we're looking at this board and we can see our start point and our finish point here, right now between the start and finish point, we have 4 items that are actively in progress. So our WIP today would be 4. But if that one that's in the nearly there column moves into done tomorrow, our WIP tomorrow would be 3, unless we pull something new in past that starting column. So this is important because you'll probably see that your WIP varies day to day. Even if you are following your WIP limits by the book, there tends to be some variability in how much actual work in progress we have in our systems. So that's our first measure. Our first measure here is actual number of work items in progress. I'll hand it over to Julia here to talk a little bit about where you can visualize this number.
So we're going to be using some screen grabs from Actionable Agile Analytics to show you how you can see these flow metrics in different ways. But there may also be other places that you can see these. But what we're looking at right now is what we call a WIP run chart. So we're looking at sort of the WIP by day, so we can see how it moves over time. You're able to see trends as well. So if I look at today, for instance, I can see from the Actionable Agile dashboard gadget as well that we have 35 items in progress. Now, Colleen, if I was to look at this chart, how do I know if we're having a problem with our WIP?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, for a lot of teams, that's usually their first question is, what is the right amount of WIP? And unfortunately, I can't answer that for you. It's going to depend on the capacity of your team or the capacity of your organization to determine what an ideal amount of work in progress is going to be for your team. But what is important, and I'll put air quotes around good, or what we're looking for in a chart like this, is something we refer to as stability. There's a great Drunk Agile episode out there right now on stability and what we mean when we talk about stability from a flow perspective. When we're thinking about stability, I think our tendency is to go to team stability. But when we're thinking about stability from a flow perspective, we're actually talking about WIP stability. And so what I would want to see in this chart is less variability, less up and down. I want this to look less like a roller coaster and more like it's staying within a few of the lines here, because that's telling me that we're keeping a consistent amount of work in progress in our system at all times. I say consistent, that doesn't mean that it's a flat line. Like I said, I've never, ever seen a team with a flat line of the WIP run chart. There's always a little bit of up and down in here, and there's lots of reasons that can be true. But what we want to see is less of the jumping up and down. And in some cases here, it looks like it goes from 0 to 40 items. So I would be looking for, how do we reduce the jumping up and down here in that WIP run chart?
Thank you so much. And also, you know, a higher number may not necessarily be bad. When we're talking about looking at data and visualizations of any kind, remember that it's telling you sort of what is, but not why it is. And so you have to sort of bring that interpretation. So if it's gone up, you might have to do a little investigation. Well, why is it up? We have more people on our team or things like that. So it's not necessarily bad if something goes up or down, depending on what it is. It's more about understanding why, and then also maybe looking at some of these other flow metrics to see, you know, if my WIP goes up, like it's sort of trending up here right now, that could be good or bad. And we'll find out by looking how the other flow metrics are performing as well. So that's something to keep in mind. These sort of have an interplay with each other as well. So don't overreact to one, look at them all sort of together and see how they're going, and remember the context. Now, when we start looking at some of these, sometimes we get some objections to caring about our amount of work in progress. So I think, Rita, you had something that you wanted to, that you have to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the more deeper objections, we're going to get in a little bit later. But yeah, how to apply work in progress. That's exactly how it used to be done. It's a column. It's in progress. I just moved my ticket over, so I'll just pick up the next ticket because it's empty. It's available. I need to be busy, right? And I think that mindset is the first thing that you need to deal with in a Teams. I need to be busy. I have to show that I'm doing something. And the most valuable thing is to start things because everybody wants to get more stuff done. But actually, that doesn't always work or really never work. How we started really with a bit of an educational piece about, in general, flow metrics. And there is a lot of information out there about flow metrics, and you're going to see some resources later and everything. So we kind of went away. We used all these resources and we put something together to present to the teams what is flow metrics to start with. But the most important thing, and when can you get a real buy-in in flow metrics, is if you take teams' pain points and you show how metrics can actually help them with that. So, for example, work in progress in one of my teams, I was observing the stand-ups. Nothing is moving. There is nothing in done forever. We are coming the next day, still everything is in progress somewhere on the board. Everyone is busy, great, but nothing is in done. There is a big sort of bottleneck in one of the columns because nobody wants to maybe test. They want to, more important work, more interesting work is somewhere else. So you always look for something, where can I go, what I can pick up that is just not close to done. But the first sign was people were burning out. People were bringing more stuff in. There was frustration. It would come out in retros. That's a very good place to start. When you have your team retro and you speak about things and everyone's like, but we need to do so many things and everybody wants everything. And we're just, it's okay. Yes, everybody wants everything, but you have your limits. You can't start everything because you start to burn out. So burnout is first, I think, sign in teams when you see that they are picking way too much. They're taking way too much on before they actually, can start something else. And I used a little bit like, this is one of the screenshots that when we talk about flow metrics is, you have 3 things to deliver, each takes 5 days. If you deliver first, somebody gets that in 5 days. If you deliver the next one in 5 days, again, you keep giving customers something, right? But if you just switch between contexts and between the tickets, in the end, you're delivering at 13th, 14th, or 15th day. I always give example as well to the teams about restaurant. So when you come in, if it's a quite good restaurant, first of all, they were going to sit you down. They were going to ask you about what would you like to drink. Then they will ask you about starter. Then they were going to ask you about, main, desserts, and everything. Nothing comes at the same time. That would be quite hard to eat and consume, right? They keep giving you something after some time. So they keep flow. They keep you happy. And I think teams sort of were able to understand that better when you put it in simple terms, like something that you can relate to. We looked at the cycle time, because if the cycle time is massive, something is wrong. And usually that's you have too much stuff that started and it's just not finishing. So yeah, other flow metrics is really important. There is no work in progress limit that we can just put, because that's the first question. So what should be our WIP limit on this column? Your WIP limit should be what you can do on the board. And that's where pull from the right came in first. And I think by now it's almost like we have this joke going around. It's like, if any delivery managers wakes you up at midnight, all you need to say is pull from the right, pull from the right, pull from the right. But that means as well, people started to pair more. People started to pay attention to what's happening. People started to be interested. They started to knowledge share. And there is no more of like, oh my goodness me, if that person is away, they started the ticket, what do? We don't know anything about this ticket. So you eliminate so many little problems that was popping up probably somewhere in retros or team health checks All stakeholders were asking about it. I'm like, well, but how can you ensure that we're going to be delivering this thing if it's only one person who knows that? So you're kind of winning quite few things by simply reducing the number and experiment with it. Try it out. If you see that the system is starving, there is nothing to do, what's next? You don't have anything else to pick up. Obviously, that is a little bit too low number. But again, if you have just a board full of tickets and you see one person attached to 2, 3, 4, 5 tickets, that is straight away for me signal. And slowly now in stand-ups, people will be, your name is on 3 tickets. Are you sure you can take all those? Can I help you? Can I join you? How can I help you? And that's extremely important, that the board is ours. It's not yours. It's not delivery managers. It's not Scrum Masters. It's not one person's board. It's not for me to see that things are moving, but you need to make sure that the team feels accountable. They're interested in moving things to done, in learning, in getting feedback, and everyone loves feedback. So if you can encourage somebody from your organization to give a little bit of feedback, that thing that you did, that was brilliant, that is just even bigger boost. And people are just extremely, excited to hear that. So yeah, a little bit of education and chat through is kind of a way to go.
Well, and I saw a question there from Janine that I think you were really starting to answer for her, Rita. But another way to think about what Rita's describing is if your WIP limits are too high, that means your work is probably idle. You have things on your board that are pulled into progress but are not actively being worked. If your WIP is too low, you probably have people that are idle. So you have people on the team that don't have any work to contribute to because your WIP limits are lower than your team's capacity. So think about this all as a way to manage how much team capacity you have or organizational capacity you have by limiting the amount of work that enters into your system.
And I think we can close this section out by saying, first of all, don't stress about the right WIP limit. Start with something, use it, adjust it. If you're not adjusting it occasionally, you're probably not paying attention to it very well. If you never hit it, it's too high. If you always hit it, it's too low. If you always surpass it, it's too low. But don't stress.